Welcome everybody to the June GPS Training Podcast. It's podcast number 10 and today on the podcast is myself, John, and I've got Andy with me.
Hello.
Andy, did you ever think we'd get to 10 podcasts?
No.
10 podcasts, that's 10 months we've been doing it, which is a good go. So fly on to 20, so that's the way it would be. So, as always, we're streaming the podcast live on Facebook. Welcome to those people on Facebook. And after we've finished the podcast, we'll be uploading it onto YouTube as well, so you can see exactly what we look like. So, if you don't like the GPS Training Facebook page, please do just go to Facebook and search for GPS Training, and don't forget to like our page. So, without further ado, let's get on today with today's podcast. On today's podcast, we're going to look at the following. We have an interview with Duncan Hutchison. He's a Scottish guy who's built his own boat and is rowing across the Atlantic. It's an absolute fantastic story and it's a superb interview. I know we covered this in last month's podcast, but we're also going to chat again about the Garmin eReach Mini, as we can't keep up with demand. It's been a fantastic success for Garmin, so we're going to chat a little bit more about that. We're going to look at the new Spot X, which is a new two-way satellite messenger. It's not yet available in the UK, but it is in the US. And then we've got Andy's top tips. And then we're going to look at some of the new videos and also the free webinar that we've got coming up in the next week. On this month's podcast, we've got a special guest, and that is Duncan Hutchison. And he's Duncan Adrift, if people have been following on Facebook or keeping up to date with him in the GPS Training newsletter. Duncan has built his own boat and is rowing from America over to Scotland, which is where he comes from. Now, that sounds hard enough as it is, but Duncan's had a little bit of misfortune as he started off. He ended up having to be rescued, and he's now in America in a cafe, and he's live via Skype. So welcome, Duncan, to the podcast.
Hi, John. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
We get there in the end with our technology trying to sync up on our Skype. We eventually got there, didn't we, Duncan?
Yes, we did. Thanks to you.
Thanks to us. Yeah, we've had a bit of fun over the last 5 minutes trying to get Duncan on Skype. He's in a cafe in America. Whereabouts exactly are you, Duncan?
Yeah, it's a guy called Morgan, and it's a little fishing marina. He rents out boats called Whale Creek Marina, and it's at a place called Strathmere. It's just south of Ocean City.
That's fantastic. And what you've done is you've built yourself a boat, and you're going to row across the Atlantic, or you started to row across the Atlantic, and then you're going to continue. So how long has this idea been in your mind? How long did it take you to build the boat?
Yeah, I've started this approximately 3 years ago, from building the boat from scratch, and planning it and trying to fund it, and actually delayed it for a year because I still can't really afford it, but yeah, so I've delayed it for a year, but it's been 3 years in the making and planning.
And then you've shipped out from whereabouts in the UK? Did you ship it from? Sorry,
I had to drive down to Bradford. It was about 400 or 500 miles. Then put the boat in a container there, and it went kind of AWOL from there. The container went. It was about a week late. It had gone different places, which it wasn't meant to go. It was changed the routine. And it was a bit late getting into New York.
And then it struggled to get through customs, did it, I believe?
Well, the customs was actually all right, but it was a bank holiday weekend, and they just don't do anything on the weekend.
Now, if people question, well, how we connected to GPS Training, Duncan contacted me, I think it's about 9 months ago, was it, Duncan, to see if we could help with a Garmin inReach, so he can use the communication and the tracking facilities on that. And we've loaned him one, of which he did some good test runs up in Scotland before he set off. And then it's now over with you in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's been a brilliant piece of kit. It's never let me down so far. It's been really good.
And when we get into the story of what's happened in the last few days, it's certainly been tested to its full potential, hasn't it? So you got the boat through customs and you set off from New York City. Was it a rowing club or a sailing club that you set off from?
Yeah, it was the Manhattan Yacht Club. I emailed all the marinas, and I got the guy from Manhattan Yacht Club, John Lagrasse. He got back and said, "You got my attention," and it kind of followed on from there. He let me use the marina for free, and just really helpful. I actually stayed in his flat and I was stuck there for a week extra, and it's just been so helpful. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And then you set off. So you set off in good conditions, or you thought they were good conditions, and off you went. And, well, what happened over the next 3 or 4 days then?
Well, I set off. I knew the forecast. Some people think I didn't know the forecast, but the forecast was looking good for 4 or 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Enough to get away from the coast. I got 3 days into it, and the weather picked up, and I put out a para anchor, which is basically an undershoot parachute.
Yes.
Underwater shoot. I drifted for not for 3 days. I drifted for 12 hours on that, and it looked like it might go ashore if it kept on the way it was, and I certainly couldn't take it off because it was too strong to row against. So I called the Coast Guard. I didn't put off emergency. I called them to ask them if it was possible to get a tow in,
Mm-hmm.
explain the situation, because I used to be in a lifeboat crew myself for 20 years, so
Brilliant.
I know it's better to predict it rather than something happen later. So that's what kind of happened there, yeah.
And they came out, and you thought they were going to tow your boat, but they didn't. You made you leave your boat and jump into the sea.
Yeah, when we came to get into the harbour, they said the weather was too rough, so they were going to cast my boat onto the beach.
Yeah.
Hopefully get picked up the next day, but it never ever actually touched the beach, and everything I had was on the boat, apart from my GPS, which I took.
It's a great story, because actually this is where the whole thing. I was actually on holiday last week, and I've been following Duncan on Facebook, and I saw this. I was actually I've already mentioned this to Duncan, so I go back over it. So sorry for going over it with you, Duncan, again. I was on holiday. I was telling some friends about how we'd loaned this InReach to Duncan as he built his own boat, rowing across the Atlantic. And then we were just coming back on Thursday, and we'd just been to the Isle of Man for the TT races. And I was sat there on the ferry, and I read this, and I went, I don't believe it. Duncan's abandoned ship with our InReach. So I get home. It was one of the first things I said to my wife when I got back. I said, so Duncan's left his boat with it. He's lost everything. He's lost everything except the InReach. So actually, if you'd left the InReach on the boat, you would have been able to track your boat down, but instead you jumped in the water with your InReach by the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, I took it so I could get in contact at home to let them know what was happening, because I presumed I was going to meet up my boat because it was getting towed in.
Yes.
But then it all changed, so as it was, if I had it on the boat, I could have tracked the boat, but the other stuff went flat in the boat.
Right. And you had everything in that boat. You had your passport and everything, didn't you?
Yeah, everything was on the boat, yeah. The sat phone, everything was on it, yeah. So I basically had to get the boat back.
And how many days was it before you got reunited with your boat?
I think it was about 5 days. It was mayhem trying to sort it out, trying to find it again. I actually got my wife to send. I've got 2 passports for work.
Right.
I actually got her to send one out to New York. I was going to head back up there, and this is the strange bit. I said to my wife, try and forget about it, and worse things have actually happened. And I says, I'm going out for a long walk, and when I come back, the boat will be there. And I came back, and I couldn't believe it. An hour later, when I came back, I got a phone call from the Ocean City Police saying it was being washed up on the beach.
Fantastic. And was there much damage to it, Duncan?
Yeah, well, at the time there wasn't much, not too much. Till later on, I noticed I got like a honeycomb shape the boat, all different compartments. Until you take the hatches off, if there's any water in it, it can't sink that way.
Yes, that's right.
But I didn't find out till a few days ago that I actually punctured a hole about 4 or 5 inches in the hull. So I've just fixed that last night. I've got that fixed, and actually one broken oar coming in as well. But yeah, that's fixed. Ready to go, I hope.
It's a great thing about building your boat is you can repair it yourself, can't you, as well?
Yeah, well, I was lucky. I got Whale Creek Marina guy Morgan, really nice guy. He's helped me out. I'm using his workshop, and I'm actually at his place just now, and that's where I fixed it. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to have done it. Well, I could have done a temporary repair at sea, but nothing like this is like fixed, so it's good.
Fantastic.
Good to go again. So
you're going to do it again, or you're going to set off again then? So when you're planning, what, next day or two before you set off again? And you set off from your current location, of course you are, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm not going back to the start. I'm going to head from here, which is just down from Ocean City in a wee place called Strathmere. I'm going to head out from here hopefully on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. It's just following the weather, it seems to change quite a bit. So, yeah, that's when I hope to start the trackers up again and get going.
And you go out on a high tide. Is that the best thing for you head out on?
Yeah, I go out with the flowing tide so it can help me go out because it's quite a sandbar coming in. That's where I broke my oar coming in.
Right, and then if everything goes correctly this time, how long will it take you to hit Scotland?
Well, I'm looking at it's 90 to 100 days initially, so I presume it's going to be roughly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you had to restock on food and things, or did you have enough anyway?
No, I think I've got plenty. I had one with the puncture of the boat. I had actually 40 meals in that compartment,
right.
And only one was burst, and the rest of them they're fine. They're all sealed. So I think it got burst when whatever came through the hull had burst one pocket.
Mm-hmm. And what's your wife think about this whole scenario? You said she would tell her not to worry about it. Is she quite happy that you kind of got rescued and you're going to go and do it again?
Well, I think she's actually happy for me to get going, rowing, because you get so many people with good wishes and things. You find it hard at home even to get out because there's so many people wishing good wishes and stuff. So yeah, I think she's still quite keen.
That's fantastic, brilliant. So you've got the InReach. So when you're rowing, you switch it on because we could track you. Actually, I'll put a link into our show notes so you can see where you got on the last attempt, because we can see you came down the coast a little bit from New York, didn't you? And then you came in. It actually showed you tracking on the live. I don't know if you've looked at the live tracking page, but you actually see your route back into land as well, which was I think a lot quicker than what it had been before. So everybody able to watch you as you head out, and it's a superb story. You are doing it in aid of WaterAid, aren't you, Duncan? So how can people give some money to this great charity?
Yeah, if they go onto duncanadrift.com, there's a link on there to it's linked to WaterAid through the website. I think it's at the moment for people donating, it's about £7,500 so far. So hopefully with all this media, it's going to hopefully boost that, I hope.
And you have been on NBC, didn't you? On the NBC last week?
Oh, yeah. Initially, the guy phoned me up, and I initially just said, no, I don't want to speak to you. And then I just thought it'd be a good idea to get the boat back. And I had enough of the media really then. But no, I got back, and a really good guy, Ted, I can't remember his name, Ted. He was really nice, and he was true to his word. He interviewed me and said what was right to say, yeah.
He was, it's a great, actually, yeah, they were very, it was a good honest piece, wasn't it? So, they weren't trying to make it into something that it wasn't, and it was honestly reported, so I think it was a credit to them, because again, I know how you feel, sometimes you think, they're going to make a big deal out of this, but actually, they reported it very well. Yeah,
because I've had quite a bit of bad publicity as well, that, people that don't understand how long I've actually planned this. I think people think maybe I've just jumped in a boat and gone, but it's taken about 3 years in building and planning, so it's a long process.
Yeah, so that's going to get going. So hopefully you get going, we can get you tracking, and with fingers crossed you get better weather.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah.
And we'll track you all the way. So thank you very much, Duncan, for joining us on this week's podcast. And again, if people want to know more, just put into Duncan Adrift into Facebook or look at his website. Also, he's got that Just Giving page he's talking about. I say I'll put links in the show notes, and then people can keep up to date with him. And again, on the GPS Training newsletter, every week once it gets going, we're going to put the live link into the InReach live tracking, and you'll be able to watch and tracking. So thank you very much, Duncan, for joining us on the podcast, and best of luck for everybody at GPS Training.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean, and thank you. Yeah, just thanks for everything. Thank you.
That's no problem.
You can find out more about Duncan's epic journey on his Facebook page. Just search for Duncan Adrift, or on his website is duncanadrift.com. And keep your eyes open for the GPS Training logo on his boat. It's actually on the right hand side of his boat, you'll see the logo. Also, as we're recording the podcast here on Friday, I see Duncan's again set off. So I think he set off yesterday. He's about 20 hours into his journey as he's heading off across Atlantic. So I'll put a link in the show notes of where you can follow him, because he's got our InReach, which is what we discussed in the interview with him a little bit earlier. So the second thing we're going to quickly talk about is the InReach Mini. So, I know we covered this in last week's podcast, but we've had a fantastic response to the InReach Mini, Andy.
Did you think it would be this successful or not?
No, when we had the first InReachers in, we did well with it. But there's new InReach Mini. As soon as we get them in stock, they just go straight out the door. We keep getting emails asking when we're getting them back in stock. The demand's just been so high, it's unbelievable.
It is, and that the orange one, which seems the most popular, is like it's now saying delivery date of the 19th of June. We've been getting the black ones and they've been trickling in, but the orange ones have been
taking a bit longer. Yeah.
Do you think most people are using them with Fenix 5.5X's watches, or what? How do you think? Because you've spoken to a lot of customers who have been buying them. How are they using them?
A lot of them are just using it as a standalone product for emergency, but we have sold somewhere the customers actually bought a new watch as well with the Fenix, so that they can use their watch with the new Fenix watch with the InReach Mini as well. So it's a bit of both, really.
And there's just the beta software at the moment, that Fenix 5X, isn't there? And then I think the new one's coming out next week. So by the time the podcast comes out, I think that new software's in the 5 and 5X, isn't it? Yeah. And is that going to be like an app, isn't it?
There's an app that you put onto the watch. They call it a widget. It's a widget on the Fenix 5 watch called InReach that you'll be able to use.
And people are syncing it with the phones as well, because you can sync it with that phone, can't you? I think that's the...
Yeah, so I mean, what the InReach Mini is, for those of you who don't know, it's a very small, lightweight emergency communicator, two-way satellite communicator. We already had InReach products. What's changed with this one, the word mini probably gives you the clue. It's very small and compact. It only weighs 100 grams, so it's a device you can carry with you and takes up no space at all. A lot of trail runners I know have been buying it, so if you're out on the hills, or in the case of Duncan, you're in the middle of the Atlantic, you're off the beaten track where you've got no mobile communication, no mobile signal. It's a means of having that peace of mind that by using the emergency SOS button or sending preset messages, you can let friends and family know where you are with 100% coverage of the Earth's surface.
It looks really smart as well, doesn't it? When you get out of the box, people go, that looks good. It's nice that Garmin have got some, I'm going to say sexy, although there are sexy products to produce. So, yeah, so... just be patient. We are holding them in stock. We're getting them in and they're going out straight away. We've got a lot on back order. We're going to try and hold, I think we discussed this in the office, maybe 5 or 6 in stock of each colour, because they are selling that quickly. But at the moment, because they're a new product, we are struggling to get them. So we've certainly got the black ones. The orange ones are coming in the next week or so. So hopefully we'll have some stock there. So if you are interested, get in touch. I know they are proving very popular. So if you want to know more about the Garmin InReach, just go to our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk, click on GPS Store and click in Garmin InReach satellite communication on the left-hand side. The next story we're going to talk about in today's podcast is the new Spot X, which is a new two-way satellite communicator from Spot. It's the first two-way communicator from Spot, and it's currently just available in the States, but it hits in the UK market in the next few weeks. I've actually spoken to the UK distributor who we buy Spot systems from, and they've not yet given me a delivery date, but I'm hoping that it's going to be here in the next couple of weeks. There's not a lot online about it. It's been sold in the States. Have you managed to find out much about the new Spot X, Andy?
Yeah, I've had a look online. I've seen some pictures of it and a couple of reviews of people in the States who have just got hold of it. The initial pictures that I've seen, it looks like it has an old style BlackBerry keyboard that we used to see sort of in 2000, year 2000 with the BlackBerry, so an old style keyboard. Those of you who don't know what the Spot is, we currently sell a Spot in the UK. Like the InReach that we're talking about, it's an emergency communicator, so that you can but it doesn't have any screen or buttons where you can type in a message. It's purely just you press a button and it sends either one preset message or an SOS message. But the new one, from what I've seen online, they've added this keyboard, so you would be able to type a message and someone receive it, and they've added a small LCD display, but like the InReach, so you'll be able to see messages coming in.
Yeah, and I think the big difference between the InReach and the Spot is they use different satellite systems, don't they? So the InReach uses the Iridium and the Spot uses the Globalstar.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons we're selling so many InReach devices is the Iridium satellite that the InReach, which is the Garmin product, uses, is the military system, high orbit system that has 100% coverage of the Earth's surface. I think it's the only satellite system, due to the number of satellites they use in the high orbit, that can guarantee that. The Spot, we've had great response with the standard Spot in the UK, but you've always got to look at the side of the Spot. Now, don't quote me exactly on these figures, but if you look, if you do some digging on the Spot, I think it's around about 70 to 75% coverage of the Earth's surface, so they can't guarantee that 100%. It's using this Global Star system, which is a lower orbit system, which is used more for voice communication, satellite phones.
And I think the thing is, just I say, I've got to stress at this point, we've not yet touched this device, and we will be getting in and playing with it extensively. But just looking at what people are saying online about it, said it can only send one message every 20 or 30 minutes. I say we've got no evidence of this, and it's just one person who's kind of got this. But they're saying that Global Star, that it's not got the same capacity.
It's not high-speed data transfer. I mean, we'll have to get one and find out. Obviously, you can't go by just one or two reviews that you've read online from America, from the first ones. We may find that's not the case, but
yeah, we'll see when we get here. So I say it's nice that they've gone this way, and actually Garmin's now got a bit of a competitor there when it comes into this country. As Andy said, it looks like a BlackBerry. It's got that screen on the top. It's got your quarterly keyboard, or that you've had, and it's that two-way satellite communicator. It's using different satellites, so again we can assess if that's going to be up to the job.
I think on one of the pictures I saw, again, there's, like John said, there's not a lot of information online. The new Spot X, it looked like on the LCD display you could bring up a basic compass and a long and lat grid reference, which I know on the Garmin InReach you can bring up on the InReach Mini, you can bring up a long and lat reference. And I know on the bigger InReaches that we do, the InReach Explorer and the SE, they have, on some of those bigger models we have compasses and grid references, but I don't see it as a navigational device. I still think really these devices are sold to use in conjunction with a GPS navigational device. That's sold as that emergency, I'm off the beaten track, no mobile connection, and I want that SOS button that I can summons potentially a mountain rescue, etc.
Yeah. I always think with the Spots, actually, it's good. I think it's more that budget end of the market. The Spot tracker's a little bit cheaper, the contract's a little bit cheaper than Garmin. So actually, it's quite good to have those in the marketplace that have got different products for people with different budgets. So I say we've not yet seen it. Again, we've got some on order. So as soon as we get it, we'll do a proper review, either in our newsletter on our website or a video review more than likely, and we'll also review it in one of the podcasts. Next thing in the podcast today is Andy's top tips. So we've got both a Garmin and a SatMap top tip. So what's your Garmin's top tip for this month, Andy?
Okay. Garmin top tip, it's more based on the sort of questions I get on a regular basis from customers. With the Garmin touchscreen unit, for Facebook users, I've got an Oregon 700 in my hands here. Often get calls from customers saying they've had a screen freeze, the screen's frozen on them. Now, this isn't a regular occurrence. There's always a reason for something happening on a unit. The same as any electrical device, there's normally a reason why something's not working as it should. Screen freezes, just because I get asked this on a reasonably regular basis, why would we get a screen freeze on a GPS? The most common reasons are battery type and the battery setting in the unit, and you have a map card in the back of the unit, a little micro SD card, and that's not sitting in correctly. So those of you using a Garmin, whether it be a touchscreen device or the push button devices, what I'd say to you, always make sure when you're changing batteries, you could be using alkaline, lithium, rechargeable batteries, that you go into your setup and system and you look at the battery type, because batteries all have different voltages, and a lot of customers, when they phone me and said they've had a screen freeze, as soon as I get them to check their battery setting, I find they've got that battery setting not set the same as the battery they're using. Because you make sure if you're using lithium batteries, you go in and change that setting, otherwise the unit's looking for a different voltage. While I'm on the battery side of things, one of the batteries that catches people out is you can buy a newer type of rechargeable battery called pre-charged, or Eneloop, Panasonic Eneloop batteries. They're a type called pre-charged. There is a setting in your Garmin GPS called pre-charged, NIMH. You make sure you set that up in the unit. The second one that I mentioned is the micro SD card that has your maps on. When the unit's booting up or you're moving around with the unit, if that little micro SD card in the back of your unit isn't sitting behind the metal clip properly, it's got dislodged, you've knocked it when changing batteries, I would always say if you've had a screen freeze, take the back off your unit, take the batteries out, make sure that little micro SD card with your maps on is locked in place correctly. You can always put a bit of tape over the clip to stop it being knocked. When you put your batteries back in and turn the unit on, check your battery settings. So that's the Garmin top tip.
Put some sellotape over that map card. I've said that a few times.
Stops you losing your map card when you're changing batteries as well, in case you knock the little metal clip. But batteries is my biggest bugbear. It tends to be an iffy set of batteries. It could be an old set of recharge. When rechargeable batteries start degrading, you find sometimes the chargers will actually put too much charge in the battery, and the voltage from them's too high. So if you start getting issues with the screen and you've had batteries you've been using for some time, it's worth just changing to a new set of batteries. Check that battery setting.
So when if your screen starts to freeze on a Garmin device, check your battery settings correct and check that micro SD card is seated correctly.
Yeah.
So your SatMap top tip, Andy?
Yeah, something's changed recently on the SatMap Active 20 units, where those of you who've got an Active 20 unit, you've probably seen you can save a breadcrumb trail, a track in the unit, and when you've been out from a walk from the trip log screen. Now, what you used to be able to do when the Active 20 first came out, if you saved a track, you could find that track in the routes menu in a folder called tracks, and you could amend it, you could edit it, you could reverse it and do things with it. What SatMap have now done, they really want you to convert that track to a route before you start amending it and editing it. It's to stop you accidentally deleting what they call raw track data that you've recorded that you may need. It could be someone using the unit for business, for recording a survey, and they don't want you to muck up that track recording. So just those of you who've got the Active 20 and you've updated your software recently, and you're suddenly realising when you save a track you can't actually edit or amend that track, what you need to do is when you've saved the track from the trip log screen, go into your routes menu, you'll find a folder called tracks, you'll see your raw track recording there with the date and time. If you select that track and then select the actions button, you get the option to convert it to a route. If you then convert it to a route, that same recording appears in a routes folder, and you can do anything you want with it. You can edit it, edit the name, reverse it. And also what we find is the routes take up a lot less data because it takes some of the track points out. It still keeps the route exactly the same shape, but it reduces the size of it, so it takes up a lot less memory in your unit. And once you've converted to a route, you can actually just delete that track as long as you've converted it to a route.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's your Garmin and SatMap top tips for this month. The final thing we're going to look at in the podcast is some new videos that we've been adding to our website. So the past month we've had a really nice guy, a guy called Robin's been with us for a couple of weeks. He's actually been getting some work experience with us, but he's quite good at doing, well, he's not quite good, he's been very good at creating some videos for us. So some of the videos we've been creating by both Andy and myself. We did one on how to subscribe to the podcast in both an Android and iPhone. So again, if you get our newsletter, you'll have seen a link to that video a couple of weeks ago. We did, Rob and I went to sat up on Simonside Hills. We did an introduction into outdoor GPS navigation, which was just kind of showing how you plan that route on the computer, how you transfer it to the GPS, and the experience you get when you're out walking in the Simonside Hills. It was actually quite funny that day when we were up on Simonside, because we actually bumped into someone who downloads the podcast. I didn't tell you that, Andy. Somebody said, "Oh, I listen to your podcast," which was really quite good. So we did that. It's about a 5 or 6 minute about me going out walking in the hills with the GPS. We did a bit of a funky one, which is the 10 most asked questions people ask before buying a GPS unit, and we gave ourselves a 5-minute window to this. So in those 5 minutes, I answered those questions as clear as I could, and that's turned into quite a nice little video as well. And then I did a video promoting a new webinar. So next week we've got a free new webinar, which is on Tuesday evening, and it's for people interested in finding out more about GPS units and navigation. So this is more aimed at people who have not got a GPS unit, who want to know if it could work for them, and that's a free webinar in there. So to find out about those, you need to just go to gpstraining.co.uk, click on the news section, and you'll see those videos listed there. Now, Andy did a 3, I think, with Robin. You did one unboxing the Garmin InReach Mini, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I think that was a good one. Again, it's this new product. We keep talking about this InReach Mini, unboxing and seeing exactly what was in the box. You did one comparing size, weight, control function of Garmin handheld, because that's something we've been asked quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah. So all the videos I did with Robin were really to do with size and weight of products, because it's something we get asked all the time. So we did the unboxing of the InReach Mini just to show how small, compact and light it is. But we often get asked about comparing GPS units side by side, not so much the technical function, because a lot of the technicalities of the GPSs are the same now. It's more the size and weight and how you use them, whether they're touchscreen or button. So if you get a chance and look under were they under the reviews?
The reviews section.
Under the reviews section on our GPS training website, a couple of new videos added. So the Garmin one, I basically had on the table all of the Garmin handheld GPSs that we sell side by side. So you see them side by side. You see me pick up each of the units, and I talk about the weight, the size and the dimensions, and also how the touchscreen works or the push buttons work. We then did the same for SatMap as well. We took the two SatMap units, because I know a lot of you have the older SatMap Active 10 or Active 12, and customers have asked, comparing it to the Active 20, what does it look like? So again, I've got them side by side just so you can see what the size of them look like. And again, I talk about the weight of the units as well.
Yeah, so as Andy says, if you go to gpstraining.co.uk, click on reviews. The three that Andy's done, so he's unboxing the InReach Mini, look at the size, weight, control functions on both Garmin units and also the Active 12 and 20 you're comparing there. So to finish off today's podcast, many thanks for listening to this month's podcast, our 10th podcast. If there's anything that you would like us to cover, please get in touch, and thank you for sticking to us if you listen to all the 10 episodes so far. Please also do get in touch if you're thinking about buying a new GPS unit, or you're looking at coming on one of our physical or webinar training courses. Just go to gpstraining.co.uk, and you'll also see GPS store, and you'll also see training as well there. And don't forget, you can watch us recording the podcast on our Facebook page, which is GPS Training UK, or our YouTube channel, which is GPS Training. If you are listening on your smartphone, please, and especially if you're doing it via iTunes, please remember to RST, which is rate our podcast on iTunes, subscribe to our podcast, and that was one of the new videos I was just talking about, in whatever platform you listen to us on, and please tell a friend about both GPS Training and about the GPS Training podcast. Please help spread the word. Many thanks, Andy, for joining me on this, our 10th ever GPS Training podcast.
Thank you.
And we very much hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to you joining us on our 11th podcast.